In what ways does your media products use develop or challenge forms of and conventions of real media products? My newspaper is a genre and a form of text that has been classified in subgenres and mixed genres. My product is aimed to bring the latest news over the week to the people of Rotherham. My newspaper genre will be weekly, as my newspaper will be coming out once a week, as it's a weekly newspaper. The name of my newspaper is called the Rotherham Weekly Press. As I am producing a weekly newspaper, this newspaper will also be a free newspaper, as this ensures that everybody in Rotherham reads it. This will also make the newspaper successful, as it's free to the public of Rotherham. Roland Barthes, 1977, says that photographs are used in media product to connote anchorage. This is shown to be used in real media newspapers, such as the Rotherham Record, the Rotherham Advertiser and the Star. And I have decided to try and recreate this in my own newspaper. My newspaper is called the Rotherham Weekly Press, as this connotes that this is a weekly newspaper, hence the name of my product. This is a local newspaper and local to Rotherham area, as this is a local newspaper that I have decided to produce. I have tried to recreate what is reinforced in the newspapers that I have looked at in order to produce a good media product, which is my newspaper. Barry Keith Grant, 1995, suggests that a genre within a genre exists and is known to be a subgenre. This is how professional newspapers such as the Rotherham Record have used genres in the form of newspapers and subgenres in the stories and articles that appear in the newspaper. This has been used and developed in the newspaper, as my newspaper is a subgenre, as it brings weekly news to the people. I have used the other newspapers to look at through the process of creating a weekly newspaper, as this had helped me to create a real media product that is believable. Norman Firecliffe, 1995, suggests that subgenres can have hybrid genres. This is that hybrids are usually mixed genres, as this may be appropriate for a mass amount of people. This applies in newspapers such as the Rotherham Advertiser, the Rotherham Record, etc. I have tried to have mixed genres in my newspaper, as most of the professional newspapers have used it. Stories won't appeal to everyone reading the newspaper. I have therefore developed mixed genre throughout my newspaper. Christian Metz, 1974, says that media products create emotional pleasures, for an example of a newspaper. The real media newspapers such as the Rotherham Record and the Rotherham Advertiser have created emotional pleasures for their readers by producing good and bad stories. I have used emotional pleasures to create good and bad stories in my newspaper, like the professional ones. I have tried to use this in my newspaper as much as I possibly could to create an emotional pleasure for the readers. Richard Dyer, 1983, suggests that a text always gives a preferred meaning. These professional newspapers have used text to connote preferred meaning to the readers, and I have tried to use preferred meaning in my newspaper inside the articles. I have tried to show how I have developed preferred meaning to be in the text that is within the stories/articles in my newspaper. Tim O'Sullivan et al. 1998 suggests ideology gives a dominant idea to the readers. In local newspapers, they use a lot of ideology within the photographs they have taken in order to get the point across to the readers. I have tried to use ideology in the photographs I have taken in my newspapers, like the professional ones have done so. I have tried to reinforce this in my newspaper. Jonathan Bigelow, 1997, suggests that news isn't just facts. In a newspaper, news isn't just presented as facts, as this would make the news boring to read, as well as some of it being useless. I have tried to make the news in my newspaper not boring, as well as being true, that has relevant facts that are useful for the readers, such as when it happened, where it happened, why it happened, and who was involved. I have developed my news stories to make them sound interesting, as well as intriguing the reader. Dennis McHale, 1972, suggests that people use media text as a diversion for escapism. In real media products such as the Rotherham Record, it has an article for the readers to read and escape reality, as the stories in the newspaper may appeal to them, as it's more interesting than actual reality. I have tried to make the stories in my newspaper fascinating so the readers feel as though they can escape reality, as the Rotherham Record does. I have therefore developed my stories and have been selected to be my newspaper. Claude Levi-Strauss, 1958, suggests that binary opposition is where usually good versus evil or where yang versus yang. In professional newspapers, they have photographs juxtaposed with the article, and this creates binary opposition in just one story. I have decided to try and recreate how they use binary opposition in professional newspapers. I felt as though I have really developed this idea, and I think that it has come a long way from when I anticipated it would turn out from the beginning of this project. Baltimore Prop 1928 suggests that every story has a protagonist, aka hero. This is also true that every story has an enigma which causes a disruption and eventually a new equilibrium. This applies in newspaper articles that appear in professional newspapers, and I have tried to use this theory and applied it to every story in my newspaper. I have reinforced this idea in all of my stories that are in the newspaper, and I have developed the stories to make them have an enigma. I have found this question very challenging, as it wants you to state everything that you have used in media product, which in this case is my newspaper called the Rotherham Weekly Press. I have implied that I have understood this question to the full extent. I have particularly found it challenging in creating this product, as well as the radio trailer being difficult to produce, as well as using different computer programs that I have never used before. I have found this project very interesting, and I can say that I have really enjoyed working on it, as it has helped me to develop my initial skills as well as creating new ones.